Most of you guys have experienced the COVID-19. It was a hard time for everyone, but it wasn't the first time that such a big pandemic had happened. So today I'm going to talk about the world's worst infectious diseases in human history. My presentation is divided into 5 parts. The first one is what is an infectious disease? Second, the reasons and ways to get infected. Third, tuberculosis. And fourth, cancer, and at the last, I prepared some simple quizzes, so please pay attention. Let's start. First, what is an infectious disease? An infectious disease is a disease caused by virus, bacteria, and microorganisms, etc. The reasons and ways to be infected. As I mentioned, we can get infected by bacteria, germs, and viruses. When it enters our body when it's weak, our body can't fight it off, and we can catch a cold, flu, or something worse than that. Oh. And ways to be infected. You might know some ways to be infected, like air and by coughing and drinking waters that other people drank, and drinking some unclean water. And also we can get infected by cuts. When our injuries or cuts get infected by germs, it can cause some painful infections, and we might have to go to the hospital. Now let's look at what tuberculosis is. Tuberculosis in Korean is known as kyorek. Tuberculosis killed more than 1 billion people, and it is infected by air and coughing. It can go through every organs, including bones and brains too. It was very serious in the Industrial Revolution or 산업혁명. Because there were still miners and people worked in mines, they couldn't get sunlight or fresh air. But fresh air and sunlight is needed to kill these diseases. So people got really sick and many people died. About 30,000 people in Europe's population died because of tuberculosis. Its symptoms are cold sweat or 식은땀, barking, coughing a lot, phlegm, which is known as 카레, and hemoptysis, which is known as kakher, or coughing blood, and chills, which is 오한. I brought 2 types of tuberculosis. The first one is tuberculosis osteomyelitis, which is bone tuberculosis, and tuberculosis meningitis, which is brain tuberculosis. As I mentioned, 30 people died in Europe because of this.
30 people?
Yes.
30,000.
Yeah, 30,000 people. Sorry about that. And I know cancer is not an infectious disease, but because it doesn't have any vaccines, I just thought it would be great to talk about it. Cancer is a tumor caused by cell divisions that went wrong, and if not treated quickly and well at a hospital, it can lead to death. At the early ages, people used radical gastrectomy, which is 근치접절제술, and they cut the tumors only which they can see. People didn't know that cancer can spread at this time. However, Johannes Peter Müller, a German scientist, studied cancer cells and created a new test to determine if the patient had cancer or not. The test is simple. He found that the cancer cells had irregular patterns and regular cells had regular patterns. So by only studying the parts where it can be suspected to have cancer, you can determine if the patient has cancer or not. And later on, in 1895, a person called Emil Grove found out that people in 2 factories lost their toenails and skins because of radiation. So he did a test on tumors too. And when the tumor was exposed to radiation, after 2 weeks, its size got smaller. This happened because of its radiation is so strong that it can kill cancer cells and treat it So, radiation treatment was developed at that time, thanks to Emil Groove. Now, if you don't have any questions, I'll move on to the quiz. First one, what does infectious disease mean? I'll explain one more time. Infectious disease is a disease caused by virus, bacteria, and microorganisms. Number 2. How can we get infected? Name at least one.
By coughing, through water, and also through air.
Yes. The answers are number 1, a disease caused by virus, bacteria, and organism, as I explained one more time. And the second answer is by coughing, air, water, and cuts, etc. There is a saying that Rome wasn't built in a day. You might be wondering why I brought this. I brought this because there's still vaccines, there's still illnesses that doesn't have a vaccine. And like Rome, it can't be built in one day. It can't be made in one day. It takes time, and we need to study more about it. So I brought this because the vaccines can't be built in a day and can't be made like Rome, but eventually it'll be made. Thank you for listening.